The years go by, but this is maybe 12 or 13 years ago now. Yeah, I rode a bicycle across the US.
Welcome to Students Like Me. Students Like Me is a podcast by the MBA student community at Imperial College Business School. We invite fascinating people from all different MBA programs of Imperial to talk about their student lives, their thoughts, and how they learn. I am Mutita Kimakom, your host from the Global MBA program January 2022 cohort. My guest today is Jason Holland. Jason is a founding partner at Studio Doho in Shanghai. Here is our interview. Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Mutita, thanks for having me. Really happy to be here.
Jason, I see from your LinkedIn and your company credentials that you shared with us in the lobby channel on Slack. I think that you are very well known through your works and your public appearance in the design industry, especially in Shanghai. So from your job, I imagine that you might have talked about who you are and what you do for 100 times. So now, how do you want to introduce yourself to your MBA peers?
Well, firstly, hello, everyone. Thanks for listening. Happy to share my experience and kind of be involved in this podcast. Just starting very quickly from the top, I am from the US. Originally, I'm from Alabama. So I grew up in Alabama, studied architecture in Alabama, became a licensed architect. But I was really wanting to work overseas and abroad. So I spent some time in Latin America, about a little over a year, plus some study and some work. And then I relocated to Shanghai 12 years ago. So in 2010, I came when the architecture industry was really in full swing and booming here. Really enjoyed it. So really challenging place, very, very fast moving, fast paced, but really adapted for my personality quite well and enjoyed it. But yeah, I come from a construction background. And so, I worked in corporate architecture for like 3 or 4 years here for a big, British architecture and engineering company, but I really wanted to get back into building. And so I actually shifted to working in project management more as a design manager, specifically kind of working on key assets for big brands who are looking to build in China. So particularly, I was third party, but working on Nike's headquarters here in China. So, large office, conference facilities, retail laboratories. And I was kind of the linchpin between the global real estate team and everything that was happening here in China. And eventually did something similar for Hitachi, where working on a customer service center and a data center, kind of that building kind of between design and actually executing and construction. And then eventually opened up my own company here, kind of like leveraging all of those experiences. And so we built my team around that and actually adapted, kind of evolved from architecture. The projects I was working on were actually heavily interior design focused and kind of space focus. So it was really nice to see those brands on the inside and understand how brands think about themselves in space and how the spatial influence can actually shape the identity of a brand. And that's where we spend a lot of our time now, is kind of walking the edge between architecture, interior design, and marketing. We actually call what we do, concepts and strategy. So we work with a lot of Chinese brands as well as international brands who are doing work here in China, really thinking broader context. So it could be working for Budweiser, doing an interior design, but also doing a business model, doing hiring a chef to actually do food tastings and actually create food that's going to be inside the space, and then do the menu design, and then do mock programming. So we really kind of have the opportunity to do full concepts. We're designing everything. We're doing brand storytelling, brand driven. We describe ourselves as a brand driven creative consultancy now. So that's a little bit about me. So when we started the company, started with my partner, we eventually started dating. We later on got married, and then now we have two kids under 2 years old. So it's been pretty intense, pretty busy all the time, but it's really nice to kind of have that type of personal connection between work and life. So.
That's so sweet. Wow. Yeah. you guys work together and then work together in your life and in your career now. That's
yes,
amazing.
Not easy, but if personalities match and it works, yeah. It works. And for us, it works quite well, I think. So
congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, but what's your company name? Please tell us.
Yes, Studio Doho is the name of our company. So my last name, Doho, is essentially my partner's last name. Dokterom, she's from the Netherlands. She got a Dutch last name. My last name is Holland. So it's DOHO, Dokterom Holland, condensed together.
You really do everything together. That's awesome.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, and can you tell us a little bit about any current projects that you are doing right now?
Yeah, we'd like to, a lot of our projects that we do generally are experience-based. And so it's either office, retail, or F&B, food and beverage. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people come to us, brands come to us, and we try to with an interesting problem. So, like for example, Hoegaarden, the beer company, we recently did create the spiritual home of Hoegaarden was the brief. Other stuff we finished recently was like sustainability activation for Coca-Cola. Really kind of thinking like how can we create make recycling into an experience to kind of inform the market. Right now, we're actually working with Zippo. On Zippo, the American lighter brand, on a retail experience center in Hangzhou, China, and so that will is quite an interesting way to really kind of rethink their market positioning and how things work in space. Also working on supermarket disruption project for one of the companies that under the Hisense umbrella. So really kind of what we do is thinking like how. In the age of buying groceries online, how does the supermarket become more of a lifestyle center? Other stuff we're doing is experimental food market halls, designing bakeries. We have restaurant projects going on, office projects. You've been, in the past, we've been done live stream studios where we create a live stream studio. Then we do all the prop design for whatever the brand would be and kind of create scene scenarios. So a lot of what we do is kind of really walking the edge between what's the future of physical space in an online space.
Awesome. So you connect online and offline space to create the experience as a whole.
That's exactly. So that's a very common brief that our clients would approach us with, and so that's really what we try to think about. What's the future of retail? Basically, what's the future of physical space, and how does online and offline come together?
Yeah, that's actually that's very interesting. Especially, I have been in similar industry experience, but more like on customer experience. Sometimes I have to involve architectural design, but not like you, just working enough on the surface and focusing on conversion rate optimizations. Like when you talk about supermarket, my job in a supermarket would be like, okay, I need to do a lot of experiments and design in order to increase conversions at the supermarket. Yeah, that kind of thing. So
actually a lot of our, I would say, most interesting or successful projects we've actually teamed up with marketing companies or consultants, and we really kind of defined a diverse range of deliverables. And so being able to sit down and work with somebody like you, like directly talking to the designer, and how that could immediately inform a design decision, and how that's actually implemented to an idea or to a brand story, and then how all that is finally taken to a physical space. And that for us is like the most rewarding projects, because you really get to see full scale of what.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you involve all kind of design in your projects, like service design, architectural design, digital experience design, exactly. Marketing campaign design, activation campaign.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually don't like telling people I'm an architect, because so many people think an architect does this, and it definitely gave me a design training and fundamentals to grow from, but it could really, we encompass so much more, and then just me personally on a day-to-day basis, really kind of think of ourselves as a much broader context of design.
Yeah, actually, I got it right away when you said in Slack that you do experience design. yeah, it just gave me the idea that it's much more than architecture, like much more than common architecture design.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. So let's talk about MBA student life. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us about your motivation to take on MBA program? What motivated you?
Yeah, well, when I started my company, I really didn't know much about business before. And so I really actively wanted to get more knowledge and understanding. And over time, I eventually began to look at, really wanted to kind of bring a lot of business knowledge into the creative industry. For us, I see a lot of people are directly opposed, creative and business. Like they see it as two complete opposites. A lot of designers don't want to think about business, and a lot of business people don't want to deal with creative. And I really like to try to kind of bridge that gap and try to understand how things work together and how they can complement each other and to create better product. I really try to bring business into the creative field, but also I hope I can bring a bit of creativity into the business side, because really I stopped. We do a lot of design projects, but I actually, personally speaking, as a business owner, really view the company that we have as a design project in and of itself. The way we think, the plan, and create goals and strategies to get there. Like so much of that is such a creative endeavor. And I think there's a lot of benefit when those two disciplines are working together. And that's really when I got motivated and interested to do an MBA. Really started looking, especially. We span a lot of diverse fields, right? Beyond architecture, which I'm trained for. And so really I'm just open about how to basically merge different things together. And I think that business kind of help create a common ground to kind of navigate those type of situations that come up with.
Okay.
Yeah, and especially, I want to grow the company, scale and expand, and just kind of having a basic set of knowledge and understanding like how things work. And of course, I read a lot of business books and did a lot of research. I was involved before, before the MBA, and still am, in a group called EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, as part of their accelerator program. And it's a lot of soft skills in business, but it's a social, it's a network that basically you have to own a company of a certain size to be involved in. And I got a lot of skills and an business understanding in that, but still after 2-3 years in that, I wanted to formalize the training a bit more, and I really wanted, that's kind of the instigator to jump into the MBA and to be doing it now.
So with that in mind, is there anything from MBA program that already benefited you?
Yeah, I mean, finance is not my strong point. When I first started, kind of just the idea of like, oh, I've got to send an invoice to get a bill, collect money. Basically, I came from a very technical and design background, and so everything in business, I always find it an almost immediate way to use. The finance course that we just finished, I found very valuable.
You mean accounting? You mean accounting? Yeah. Because the finance is the next one.
Yes, sorry, you're right.
Yes. No, yeah. I know, it's very similar.
The accounting, because I just have such little background in that. And so it's really difficult, don't get me wrong, but useful to kind of understand how I can change the way that we do financial planning and budgeting and cash flow, and really try to evolve our company to the next level and use some of those cases and skill sets to actually apply it in real world to our financial planning. And that helps us make informed decisions about what we're doing today and tomorrow and next year. Really think that's very difficult course. I think on a pure enjoyment level, I like the organizational behavior course more, because it's more about thinking and critical thinking. And I really enjoy kind of practicing those skills, because it's so different when you're really analyzing the situation. A lot of what we have to do is analyzing, what's the intent behind client saying this, or how do we interpret what they want, and what's the really driving factor of what are we not seeing. And a lot of the organizational behaviors, already been some situations where it's like, okay, let me really analyze this from a different set of framework and try to put a different lens on the situation and really kind of find discoveries that find, benefit to resolve issues or problems and help things roll smoother.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask this question. You from Alabama, the US, and now living in Shanghai, and why you chose Imperial in London?
There's a few reasons. Flexibility was a big one. I really wanted to keep having the company, 2 young kids, really, which you may hear
we have soundtrack in the background.
Exactly. Real life work from home as we are here in Shanghai at the moment. But really the flexibility with Imperial. Yeah, I have some people here in Shanghai that I've known who actually recommended the program because they're doing it now or almost finished with it now. And the more I looked into it, it just seemed like a great option. Really good program, but as well as I can keep working, dedicate nights, weekends to the study. And as well as opportunities, diverse opportunities, but also my wife is from Amsterdam, and so I really want to try to build some connections more to Europe, to the UK, where they can have more of a bridge, because if we do relocate, it might be in that area, and so we really want to have that as a possible bridge. And so that was a big driving factor, because it's based in London, which is this services so much of Europe, the UK now. So that's how I kind of view as a bigger part of the strategy.
Okay, so let me mention this to our MBA peers, listeners. Anyone in Europe, Jason is opportunities with you guys.
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay. And can you tell us about your hope, what you hope to learn and accomplish from taking MBA rather than like applying the knowledge to your work? Anything?
Yeah. I mean, I really want to increase the understanding of just how business works, the financing, the accounting, like all those type of underpinning things. And that's one of the great things that, in my group, I've got, in the MBA group that I'm in, we've got such a diverse range and background of people. And I think, immediately understanding how somebody who deals with statistics or shipping or works in finance or in, trading approaches something. I think those type of things are really powerful, and that's what I hope to continue learning and growing from.
Yeah. Okay. And can you tell us about your MBA student life in a day? Like in the past semester, how did you manage it?
Well, it's working because I have the company myself. I do have a bit more flexibility to schedule my hours in. I personally end up, because we have small kids, usually get working all day, home, getting the kids to bed by 8 or 9 p.m. and then kind of dedicate that 9 p.m. to midnight, 1 a.m. slot to study as needed, and then trying to squeeze time on the weekends. It is tough for me studying on the weekends because with kids at home, like there are obligations, and then it's just a bit noisy. But really, I would say optimizing nights as much as possible. It's difficult. The workload is real, right? And I do enjoy it though, because it is something that I'm motivated, extremely interested in. I will say I did have a bit of experience with this type of tough schedule when I was doing my licensing exams for architecture, because you have to go through a long schooling process, and then you have to do a work process, and then you have to do basically 1 to 2 years of testing. And so, during that period, it was a lot of late night studying, and then examinations but that's what works for me. In design, we end up having a lot of late nights, kind of night owls anyway. Our industry starts late and works late. But yeah, that's what I found most effective at this point.
I see. Okay. And yeah, I've seen my architect friends in university had the same kind of life that you just described.
Yeah, it's something that you have adapt to but it's good. I mean, I think a lot of creative industries end up working late in the evenings just because in creative, if you're always once you're in the zone and then flowing with something, it's a lot like coding or whatever it would be, right? It takes a while to get in the groove, remove distractions. Nighttime tends to be less distractions, and then as well as some people kind of think better, think freer, so it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. I would like to ask you about your activities. One of the things that you mentioned in the Slack is that you did ride a bicycle across the US. Can you tell us about that? What did you do?
Yes. Yeah, this is always a fun one to talk about. But yeah, so this, the years go by, but this is maybe 12 or 13 years ago now. Yeah, I rode a bicycle across the US. So originally, I had been working in Latin America, and I had come back to Alabama, but was looking for interesting ways to explore the US differently. I had never really been to the West Coast. I had never been to the Pacific Northwest area, and after traveling internationally, I wanted to make it more interesting traveling in the US and not just take the typical hop on a flight and go. Actually linked to architecture, I found an organization called Bike and Build, and they actually raise money for affordable housing in the US and kind of address some of the housing crisis for providing housing. So I actually did the first part of the trip with this group, where we raised money, and then basically once a week we stopped in different cities for one day and did volunteering work building houses. So that added a really nice impact to it. But for me, very simply, the trip was, we started in New Hampshire on the East Coast, dip your wheels in the water, and then we basically rode the US-Canada border all the way across through Seattle, then up into Vancouver, Canada. That trip was 10 weeks, about 6,000 kilometers. So you're averaging, it's about 100, averaging about 120 kilometers a day. Obviously, some days are shorter, some days are longer, but it's tough. Then after that, after we arrived, what was going to be the end of the trip in Vancouver, my friend and I looked at a map and said, well, we're in good shape and we're already here. Why don't we just ride to Mexico? And so we kind of...
Oh, well, that plan's kind of just came up. You didn't plan to do that in the first place?
It was completely unscripted. So we just said, turn left and let's just go to Mexico.
Oh my, okay.
We added another 4 weeks, and we basically rode the Pacific Coast Highway down the coast through Washington, Oregon, and then the coast of California. That we ended at the Mexico border. Very powerful. Seeing California, for me, that was the first time to be there, and they really do it at such a slow pace. The pace of a bicycle, it's really a different perspective, the way you see travel and everything after that. And it's very difficult because day to day, there's a lot of repetition in it, but it's still exciting. It's very nice to see the landscape transform, to see the people transform so differently, the way regional culture works, and really just interact with people, because on a bike you can just stop and people see you when you've got bags on the side of your bike. You're clearly up to something, and so people are really eager to talk. Riding into California, into LA for the first time, I was a little bit, LA, not sure what was going to happen or how the people were going to be, but I found people really, really, really receptive. Just biking through the city, and they're like, "Oh, let me buy you a coffee," or "Hey, you need a place to stay? I've got extra room." Yes. And you really kind of see a level of generosity and engagement from people that's so different than anything else I've experienced. And as well as you really transform what you think is possible, because so many days, I realized the story I tell is when we first started, we would tell people, in New Hampshire and Maine, we're biking across the US, and people just kind of laugh. They don't believe you. And I get it, right? Because then they think, okay, something's going to go wrong or it's not going to happen. It takes a lot of.
It's a big country, okay? It's like a continent. So like you did bike like across a continent.
It is.
Yeah.
And I realized as we got halfway, people, right in the middle, kind of like the North Dakota areas, we would tell people, or we bike through Chicago and then up to Minnesota and the Twin Cities, and you would tell people then we're doing it, and then they kind of look at you really skeptical, like you're not going to make it. But like, well, we're already halfway. Well, it's still not believing. And then we're thinking, okay, well, we're finally going to get there and do it, and then people are going to be like, wow, you've done this great. So we ended up on the West Coast, and we're in Seattle and Vancouver, and people stop and you tell them, and then they look at you and they don't believe you. So you're expecting some type of congratulations, but they're like, oh, you must have taken the bus. How much did you take the train? Oh, you didn't really do. And so you really realize there's like an embodied level of skepticism, and you really kind of just have to embrace that. But personally, it just transformed me and my perspective on what's possible. When you look at a map and you measure the scale of distance on what you've done on a bicycle, it is so different. And really, really encourage, maybe that's not the journey for everyone, but to really take that type of challenging journey, however you do, and find that really provides such a catalyst for everything else you do for years to come and the rest of your life, quite honestly. So.
You miss it, the trip?
That trip was special. I don't miss it. There were many things I would have done differently, but it's tough when you're in the sun and you're in the wind and the cold, or you're being blown over because there's crosswinds in the plains of the Midwest. It's a lot of sleeping on the floor, literally sleeping on the side of the road or wherever you find to sleep, eating, peanut butter and bread and very basic, simple cuisine. It's tough. But I would do since then I've done other trips around China, cycled around Taiwan. My wife and I cycled across Cambodia a few years ago. So you really kind of keep doing and finding new ways to travel and to make it very personal. And when we've taken those bicycle journeys here in different parts of Asia, you really get to see a whole nother aspect of culture, a whole different level of kindness and engagement with the people. Really found some special journeys, like in the west parts of China, cycling through Qinghai and Gansu provinces and those sort of things. Very, very powerful way to see a country and a culture.
Okay, next time when I am on my trip abroad, I will keep my eyes on cycling people. Maybe you and your wife.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, what would you be doing if you were not doing your MBA at the moment?
Well, I would, I stay quite involved in the professional organization for architects, which is called AIA, American Institute of Architects.
Yeah, I see it on your LinkedIn.
Yes, and so we have a Shanghai chapter here, and I try to stay involved. I've kind of stepped back a little bit to focus on the MBA, but previously I was really engaging what we call our emerging professionals, and so basically, really people in that first 10 years of work who are kind of looking for career advice and how to build the fundamentals of a career, mentorship for them, kind of testing as they're becoming professional architects, and so. That's what I would be spending a lot more time on now. I've kind of worked and kind of handed it over and delegated to other people now, but I really kind of feel that helping young creatives understand the bigger picture, and as well as business focus and then how to think about design, how to quantify it and into the financial aspects and understanding, something that I really feel passionate about, and then I try to kind of find ways to engage that either through lectures or through different types of programs.
That's cool. With this success, do you have role model, or who were role models that brought you here? Anyone?
Yeah, so I mean, my family's been incredibly supportive, and so, but I will say, role model outside of parents and family. But yeah, I've been involved in a mentorship program over the past 1+ years, and so this is through the business organization I'm involved with here in Shanghai. But guy from he's an architect, very similar story, works with his wife, but he's grown a very successful architecture practice here. A bit different project typology, but he's really respect and appreciate him. And he's kind of, we spend, we meet once a month and we just kind of talk about shaping my company, the business, and kind of dealing with type of problems. And I really view him as a role model, somebody who's really instrumental in kind of sharing his perspective. And half the time, you do wonder when you have somebody successful like that, it's like, why would they take the time to spend it with me? And really kind of look up to him and appreciate what he's done. So Vincent de Graaf is his name. I would say that's the role model now.
Yeah, actually, I really want to ask you a lot of questions, but it's kind of out of the theme of the podcast right now. So I hope I have more time with you later. Okay.
Yes.
So is there anything? Yeah, is there anything that I didn't ask you and you want to tell us?
Well, the bicycle thing was a fun one, so I'm glad we talked about that one already. But yeah, I mean, in general, really enjoy the group so far, the cohort. I really enjoy my group. Just say a special hello to them. I really think that we've got a great team, and I'm sure a lot of people feel like that in your own groups. But that's one of the great things I really feel about the program, is being able to work closely with them, being able to solve things and kind of really achieve more as a group. And I really appreciate everybody in that group 15. Yeah, and as well as some stuff, if you are interested in checking out our work, a lot of the stuff that I mentioned is very visual. I mean, we have a website, studiodoho.com. Studiodoho.cn is launching very soon. I think within the week we're doing a revamp for that website. But check it out, because a lot of stuff that we do is very visual. So it's kind of nice to it might be, if you're interested to see some of those projects online, or just kind of jump on our website and take a look at it.
Yeah, and I would like to add that, guys, listeners, if you are our peers in MBA, you can go into our Slack group. Jason already shared with us his company credential. It's many page long, but you want to see every page. It looks amazing. It's just awesome design there. Yeah.
Well, thank you. It means a lot. It's been a long journey, especially going through entrepreneurship and understanding how to think like a business. But when I realized it's more than just me. I've got an amazing team, an amazing partner, and so it's really a reflection of what everybody's been involved with, and amazing clients as well. So it's really nice to hear compliments, but they are certainly for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's honest. You earn it. Yeah. So Jason, Holland, one last question. How do you define success, and how do you measure it?
I think success is different. I put myself in two heads on this one. I mean, success is definitely about growth, about challenging yourself, not being afraid to fail. Some people measure that through, how much, if you're making a lot of money or if you're winning awards. But I do think that the measurement of personal growth, personal fulfillment, is important, but it's also important to kind of push yourself and really, so when you look back, you realize how far that you've come. We do try to win awards. We do try to have measurables and definable moments of success because they do help as milestones when you look back, because I've won this award or this type of whatever credential it would be. Very much like the MBA is, you think about business for a long time, but once you do an MBA and you have the title, it's something that is a measurable moment. And I think success is combining both of those, kind of the meaningful things to you personally, but also those measurable moments.
How do people connect with you? Which channel is the best channel to connect with you?
LinkedIn is the one I'm on the most. I'm on WeChat. You can find me on WeChat if you're based in China or if you use that app. But on WeChat, my number to connect is 155-0217-1438. Other social media platforms, I don't really stay active on too much. So those are the two best. Otherwise, jump on our website and there's an email address on there where you can connect and we can link up and find a way to chat. Always happy to talk, always interested in finding new opportunities for projects as well. So if anybody is in China, or if you're a brand or looking, represent the brand or looking for interesting things, feel free to reach out. Happy to share my experience, kind of tips, and kind of see what's possible.
Here you go. Okay, Jason, thank you very much for sharing your story and perspectives with us. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us today. Wish you all the best for your success and your degree. Really looking forward to seeing more of your projects and your achievements. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Martina. Thanks again for organizing, and you've been a great host. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you again to Jason for joining us, and more stories from students like me will be coming in the next episode.